this is a very important lecture series for the UG, PG, PhD, MPhil students who who are about to begin their research project. Now, what I have observed in my 16-17 years of experience of teaching the BBA, MBA students and guiding the PhD thesis, the most important area that has been widely ignored in the research is how to choose a title of the research project. Now, what I feel is that there should be more and more work, a focused and systematic work which is to be done while choosing the title of the research project. So I have given it a name. This lecture series will contain all the aspects from the beginning of the research, like the choosing the title of the research project and till report writing. Even the word formatting, questionnaire designing, uh, writing the literature review, writing the introduction chapter, how to and how many figures should be there, tables, everything I will cover in this lecture series. So this is the first lecture which is titled as choosing the title of the research project. Okay, so we will step by step learn that what is the title, what is the topic, domain, subdomain, area, focus, and how important it is. Let me tell you, friends, this is the most important step of your research journey. Maybe you may be like a UG student or PG student, or you may be a PhD student. This is equally relevant and important for all types of students. Okay, so let us begin with how and what is the problem that I generally identify. The problem is that the titles that I come across or the students come to me, there are many common mistakes in their project titles when they propose it. Even you will not believe many of the scholarly journals which are indexed in, maybe not in Scopus but indexed in some Google Scholar or maybe other indices, the UGC Care, the titles of those research papers are also not very good, though the research has been conducted and that has been published also, but they are also not good. Now, not referring to it, a simple discussion on choosing a project title begins with what are the common mistakes that the students do. Now, the very first mistake you can see is the title is too vague or too broad. This is a very common mistake. Most of us do that mistake while we are beginning with the research. It's not that if we do mistake, we have done some crime. No, that it is a learning process. Okay, so if we do a mistake, then somebody has to be there to guide us. And this video is a landmark video which I have been planning for a long time. I will be introducing you with many resources also, how you can plan, how you can uh, get the data, the information, so that you can make a very good title. And very good title finalization, whatever the process we go through, is almost 30 to 40% of the research journey. So you see that 30 to 40% of the job will be over, because you will be clear with your constructs, your variables, your how to make a questionnaire, who will be your respondent, what is the scope, what is the area, what is the industry in the context of which you want to go for a research. So many things will be clear in the beginning itself. So there is no reverse engineering required. Later you won't be stuck like, oh my god, I have chosen a wrong title, now what to do. Okay, so this will fuel your research, this will speed up your work, and you will be happy throughout the research journey if you choose a good title. So first is, it should not be too vague or too broad. Like many students come with me, sir, I want to study retailing in India. Now see, retailing in India is very broad. What you want to study? You want to study government policies for retailing, consumer behavior, B2B, B2C, supply chain and logistics, IT in retail, visual merchandising, store management, location. Hundreds of things are there for retailing in India, so it cannot be a topic. Technology and innovations, very broad. Consumer behavior. Sometimes students come, I want to study consumer behavior in retail. Again, very broad title. recruitment, selection, all are very broad topics. In fact, these are not even topics, these are the domains and subdomains. I will explain it later in detail. Now, next mistake is vague and too complex. So, one is the vague, the title is only vague, but second is it is too complex also. For a general researcher and industry practitioner, there is a difference in choosing the research title. An industry practitioner focuses upon the research that is basically targeted to an action research. That would be an action research, right? But the researcher who is an academic researcher is mainly targeting upon a theory building, extending a theory, establishing the relationship between the variables, and so on. So the research is different. You don't have the resources like the industry people have. So, considering your limitations, complexity should not be there, like optimizing supply chain management with mathematical modeling. Now, you should have a pure mathematical background for that. You should have the knowledge of supply chain. You should have a mentor who has this much of knowledge. Okay, so a fancy title or a fancy complex combination of words will not help you out until and unless you don't have that capacity to implement. Okay, single variable. Now, this is not a blunder, but this is also a mistake. A single variable measurement is very narrow point or narrow focus of the research. We should at least establish some relationship, and we should have at least two to three variables. Not many variables. I will show you many examples during this entire lecture. Now, single variable may be like a study of e-banking behavior. Now, again, it is very broad. But suppose single variable may be study of job satisfaction in BPO industry. Suppose now this is a single variable. Rather, you could design it factors affecting the job satisfaction of a particular level or category of employees in the BPO industry. Okay, so we have to make it more specific, not too broad and not too narrow as well. Now, we I have some examples of complexity and how people make the title very narrow. Then we have industry or scope, which is missing. Now, industry or scope may not be in the title, but it should be in your mind while you are choosing a title. Like pharmaceutical industry, consumer behavior of pharmaceutical industry is different from FMCG, FMCG different from electronics and apparels. All industries are different. So, whenever you are giving a research treatment to any variable, you are measuring them, you are combining them, you are establishing a relationship, you should be very clear which industry you are talking about. So one of my scholars has done work in the pharmaceutical industry, wherein invariably we found that in pharmaceutical, patient is not the consumer, rather the physician, doctor itself is the consumer when it comes to the prescription of the prescription medicines, because whatever doctor prescribes the consumer buys. So the impact of brand building strategies is not on the consumer, I mean patient, it is on the physician, it is on the doctor. So the when the industry differs, the likelihood of the consumers, the buying patterns, everything differs. And the same is the case that applies in the human resource management, in the information technology, in the production and operations, in the financial management. All industries, all sectors, all areas have their different mindset of employees, people, investors, consumers. So we have to define the scope very, at least the industry, at least the who will be the respondent whom I want to study has to be defined in the mind. If you are not writing it in the title, if you are writing it in the title, that is also absolutely fine. You can write that in the title, like in the context of electronic goods, in the contract context of pharmaceutical, generic medicines, branded medicines. Okay, women, women casual apparels, you should define, because in apparel industry, organized retail industry, women apparels, still there is a scope. Like women apparels are formal, party wear, or ethnic or casuals. There may be four categories, or you are talking about staples, you are talking about destination category. So one has to be very clear about the industry itself in the beginning. Okay, too specific, this is a typographical error, tool हो गया है, this is too novel and underworked. Title itself is underworked, and it is too spare. Role of investors motivation for investment behavior in cryptocurrency and its impact on attribution bias in the multi-cap mutual funds with over 30,000 crore market cap. Now this becomes very very complex, very novel, and underworked topic. I would suggest at least UG, and this topic is not very great. I mean, most of the things we can write in the scope of the study. Okay, one thing. Second is a UG and PG student should avoid taking such topics. Okay, they can make it a little broad, like multi-cap itself is okay. Okay, attribution bias may be behavioral bias, so you may have more number of biases rather than only attribution bias. So this is a very complex topic. Next and last comes is the overwork topic. Overwork topic means like impact of job satisfaction on employee retention in IT industry. And hundreds, thousands of papers have been already written. Hundreds of UG, PG, PhD projects have already been done. So we should consciously avoid this topic, not the no this title. I must say, not the topics. Means we can take job satisfaction, employee retention, but we have to change their context. Like we can do it like post COVID and pre COVID, or post COVID job satisfaction, right? Impact of work from home on job satisfaction and employee, though many studies have been done, and that is why we do literature review, and then we find that what is the research gap. Okay, but obviously these seem to be very common topics, and we should avoid them, and we should make them more focused. Okay, so having discussed on this, I give you three examples of the topics, and let us see which one seems to be a good topic. I must say the title, a good title for the research. So this is what, right now you see that there are three titles. A study of retailing in India. So as I already told, this is a very vague topic. Next is a comparative study of consumers' choices for online and offline retailing in India, or Delhi NCR. This is a geographical area. Now, this title is good with respect to the framing of the title. There is a comparative study of consumers' choices. Okay, so choices may be based on the products, based on the benefits of offline and online, but this is an overworked topic. So we should again think that how we can make it focused one. Okay, so this may be a pre-COVID, post-COVID scenario. This may be, and don't I mean, this is just an example. Don't insert pre-COVID, post-COVID everywhere, because this has also been overworked now. So you have to find your own niche. Okay, now the third title is very complex, and it is overburdened with the jargons, which may be either put under one umbrella term or may be discussed in the scope of the study. So the title is Impact of Brand Awareness, Brand Association, Perceived Quality, and Brand Loyalty on Brand Equity in the context of organized retail sector in Delhi and NCR with mediation effect of consumer innovativeness. Now, see, this is a good title. Consumer innovativeness is something that nowadays bit popular, but it has been, I don't think it has been much studied in the context of the brand. Now, if we see carefully, brand awareness, association, quality, and loyalty, these are the four, and brand equity is the dependent variable. These are the five factors which have been discussed in the David Acker's brand equity model. So we can say that impact of brand equity dimensions, or Acker's brand equity dimensions on brand loyalty, colon, a mediation effect of consumer innovativeness. That's all. So what I have removed is, I have removed the five jargons, four components, and four components I have written Acker's brand equity dimensions. Okay, own brand equity. Now in the context of organized retail, Delhi NCR, this I will put into what? This I will put into the scope of the study, and mediation effect of consumer innovativeness, or in the context of retail I can put somewhere in the title if the if the journal number of words permit me, or if it fits and it looks good. When we read a title, it should look good, it should look catchy. Okay, so this is the way that we work upon a title of the research. So I have a lot of things, how should one begin. But before that, a very important slide that discusses about the features of a good title, and most of the features we have already discussed also, right? Now, first most important feature is crisp, direct and clear. Clarity is very important. So there should not be a question, you may remember that Three Idiots, the uh, in which Amir Khan dictates that content of the book and the teacher says कि कहना क्या चाहते हो. तो ये नहीं होना चाहिए. This should not be there, that what you want to say, whatever you say is clear, it is direct, that I want to study consumer satisfaction for mobile app based taxi services, okay, in Delhi and NCR. So consumer satisfaction for mobile based, and now you have a consumer satisfaction scale and you can measure it. Okay, so I told you that one variable is a limitation, but one variable can also be studied. It has to be clarified further. Okay, not too vague, we have already discussed. Not too big, not too small, we have already discussed. See, a small topic is big, a small title is big in scope, and a big title is small in scope, because more number of words we add, it will be, the scope will keep on being smaller. Now small is broad and big is specific, that I have identified in the fourth box. Now come to the reflection of variables. Title should reflect the variables. Variables means like your classical variables are age, gender, income, occupation. Behavioral variables, likability, satisfaction, perception, loyalty, retention, switching behavior. Okay, these all are brand equity, perceived quality, right? Expected quality. These all are variables. So these variables should be reflected from the title itself. Two, three, four variables, or there is a bunch of variables. Like we use theories. Like in one box I've written, you taught to TPB, TAM. So theory of planned behavior. TPB is theory of planned behavior. TAM is theory of technology acceptance model. Now these have the variables in them. So if we write TAM, we need not write the variables. If we write Acker's brand equity dimensions, we need not write what the variables in the title. But variables should be reflected, whether with the help of a broad term like TAM, TPB, or if there is not such term, then we can write the variables itself in the title, like employee satisfaction, role of employee satisfaction in employee retention, a mediating role of something, or like that. So variable should be clear. Okay, now clarity about independent and dependent variable. If we are having two or three variables, and we are making like a study of customer satisfaction and loyalty in IT industry, this is little vague, because we are studying satisfaction and loyalty. Now satisfaction is a cause of loyalty, right? So we should write an impact of satisfaction on loyalty. So our satisfaction is independent variable and loyalty is dependent variable. So there is a clarity about independent and dependent variable. Now next comes is the mention the geographical area, which is not mandatory. You can mention if you want to mention, you can mention. If you think that the geographical area can be given in the scope of the study, then it is fine. So we generally like India, NCR, state, or somewhat like that. You can mention. Question form or statement form, both accepted. This is more about the title of the research paper, but in research project question form may be avoided, so please avoid question form. The question form is accepted in the research papers. Next comes is the clarity. Clarify the use of theory, if any. If you are using a theory, like one who is using, in the last slide you see, one who is using the all the dimensions of Akers model, then we should use the term Akers brand equity dimension, right? So if you use the name of a theory, it is respected. It is very good for a UG/PG project, even PhD project, PhD thesis, which is the biggest, the most important degree for academicians. Very, very important. In any case, if you study, and as a UGPG student, if you study like TAM or Akers brand equity, it is amazing. It is very good. The context should be new, the industry or respondent should be new, the title, the context should be new, because the theory is old, na? So you are proving, you are retesting an old theory in, of course, a new context. Okay, maybe a new industry like financial startups, maybe in fintech experience. Okay, so then it becomes a new research. Okay, so mention the statistical technique, which is optional. So don't mention the statistical technique in the research projects, UGPG projects, or PhD thesis. You mention it in the research paper, because most of my research papers have the uh, technique mentioned in it. You mention the technique if it is new, okay, or if it is the base of your research. So I give you an example. One of my students in MBA, he studied the stock market. Some He picked some stocks, refined some stocks with the help of the 10 years past data of the companies listed in NSE, National Stock Exchange, even in fact Nifty. I must be very specific. So he applied the formula uh, given by Mr. Abhishek Mukherjee, if I'm correct, his book Coffee Can Investing. So from Coffee Can Investing, he picked up that formula. So he titled the project in a way that Coffee Can Stocks. So a study with the help of Coffee Can Investing formula. Or if you have a formula like Ramdev Agarwal's formula, that is QGLP, quality, growth, longevity, and price. So you can mention that in the title itself of the project. But in case of a research paper, generally people like write up PLSM approach, CBSM approach, or multiple regression approach, ANN approach. Okay, so multi-dimensional scaling. I generally mention in the research papers, but in research projects and thesis, you mention only if it is the base, like camel model people used to in the PhD thesis also. Camel model that is used in the banking for analysis purpose, banking evaluation analysis purpose. Now next we move to examples of some of the good titles from international journals. This is for paper, research papers, not for the project itself. And if it is for the project itself, you please don't write the okay, it may be for, I'll tell you, I'll read the title and I'll tell you: reputation and its consequences in the fintech services, a case of mobile banking. Okay, so this is a fair, good enough title. Now you have see the variables. Reputation is a variable, and its consequences means its impact. So reputation is an independent variable. Fintech services is a dependent variable. It will be measured with the help of certain other variables. Okay, mobile banking is a context. Like for mobile banking consumers, what are the services provided by mobile banking as a fintech service, and how the reputation affects about those services, right? Then we come to the students acceptance for social media in higher education, and application of UTOT2 model. This is also good. UTOT2 is a model related to your technology acceptance. It has more number of variables than technology acceptance model. It's a new model. Students acceptance of social media in higher education. So this is a new topic, good topic, and this is a good title. So student acceptance is a variable, social media is a variable, social media in higher education. With the help of UTOT2, because UTOT2 itself has the variables clarity, so you are not worried about it. So this is a theory. This has been mentioned. Now next is this is one of the titles of one of my papers with my scholars: assessing adherence of patient satisfaction with medication. So adherence of patient satisfaction with medication is a variable. This is one variable. Now, validation of TSQM in emerging markets. So, treatment satisfaction questionnaire for medication is already developed by someone else. We adopted this questionnaire and conducted the study. So, this is a different kind of, but clarity should be there. There is a clarity that we have adopted TSQM questionnaire. Measuring direct and indirect effect of key competencies on effectiveness of technical managers using structural equation modeling. Now, measuring direct and indirect effect of key competencies on effectiveness of technical managers. Can we identify the variables in this topic? So, variable is key competencies is one variable. Effectiveness of technical managers is the dependent variable. So key competencies is the independent variable. So there may be few key competencies, 1, 2, 3, 4, and what is the direct and what is indirect impact. This has to be seen when you will study this paper. You will be clear. Okay. Using structural equation model. So structural equation model word should be avoided for project purpose. Okay, it may be avoided because it's a common nowadays, a very common technique that you apply. Okay, so and you can take the topic like measuring direct and indirect effect of key competencies on effectiveness of the technical managers. I think it would have been better that the author should have would have specified about what is the direct and what is the indirect, like indirect through any mediation variable, that could be given in the title to make it a better title. Okay, now we come to the action part, like how do we do it. So the important nomenclatures are discipline, domain, subdomain, topic, and title. Whenever a student starts his work, his journey, he should first of all understand about the discipline of the research. Discipline means, like, and see, this is not fixed one. I have explained it like this. Suppose your discipline is management. It may be commerce, it may be social science, it may be IT, it may be fashion designing, whatever, film production, whatever is the discipline. Now, discipline is the broad area in which you are doing your masters, okay, or your undergraduate course or your PhD, the department name itself, okay. Now, in your department, there are further classifications, further departmentization, which is domain. So, like, I am a management faculty in the Department of Management, and my domain is marketing. Now, what is my subdomain? Suppose my subdomain is retail management. So, as a student, as a researcher, you have to decide that you cannot understand, you cannot study the entire management or entire marketing, not even entire retail management. Once you come to your subdomain, then you decide that take a book on your subdomain, like take a book of retail management, and then you see that what are the topics, are interesting topics in retail itself. And suppose you find a topic like visual merchandising, repurchase intention. Okay, so now I have drafted, I have come with a title. What is the difference between topic and title? Topic is the heading, the broad theme of the broad theme of the study. Like visual merchandising is topic. Suppose somebody asks me that, okay, on which area, in which area you have done your research, so I would say I have done it in promotional methods, right? But this is not title, this is topic. So my topic was promotional methods. So my study was basically in the banking industry, my PhD. So I studied the effectiveness of the promotional methods in the for the leading banks in India. Now, this is the way that we differentiate between topic and title. So once your topic is clear, which is very narrow, okay, very focused, that I want to study these three topics, and the topics eventually become your variables, or you churn out the topics little more, they become your variables. So they help you out to form a title. So the way I have formed a title is role of effective visual merchandising on shoppers repurchase intention in the apparel retailing, an empirical study. Now, a very important thing is, this is a very good title with respect to identification of the variables, industry, dependent and independent variables are present. Title does not seem to be very common, not even very innovative. Okay, so it seems to be a decent title for say UG PG projects, and if it has to be done with the PhD, the scope has to be defined in a way that it stands out to be a novel title. Okay, so I'm not focusing much more on PhD, but I'm focusing upon the beginners. Beginners of PhD also can have some insights from this lecture. Now you see, role of effective visual merchandising. What is visual merchandising? In this title, it is independent variable. Okay, now how to measure effective visual merchandising? There will be a group of statements, scale that the consumers will, the respondents will give their answers in the questionnaire. Will form that. We will make the questionnaire. Okay. Now, when we come to the repurchase intention, it is the dependent variable. It is a small part of the consumer behavior. Okay. So, entire consumer behavior we cannot study, entire retail we cannot study. So, we take one aspect from the retail, one aspect from the consumer behavior. So, one theory, one industry. A very simple topic will have one context of industry and another context of the theory. Okay. So now this is what shopping repurchase intention in the apparel retailing. I have given apparel retailing. So the industry subdomain is also defined, that retailing is use. Okay. So apparel retailing is done. Now in apparel retailing, whether it is men, women, or multiple or whatever, will be defined in the scope of the study. Okay, not in the title, not required in the title. What is empirical study? Empirical study is the study that is based on the researchers direct experience and observation from the respondents. So whatever respondents say, or it is supported by the numerical data or textual data, but it is empirical, means the subjects gives their responses to the researcher, or researcher obtains the responses. But it is not the desk research or based on the simple analytical simple theory analysis which is already there in the domain. Okay, now we have the steps in deciding upon the title of a research project. So what we have discussed in detail, what are the problems with the titles, how do we churn out, how do we reach to the topic, what should we study, okay, somewhat like the books and all. Now an important thing is the steps in deciding upon the title of the project. Decide upon discipline, domain and subdomain. So I have already explained it. Now let me see. Now, what is the discipline? I have told management, commerce, computer science, business studies, business management. This is the department in which you are working. Your domain is your specialization. HRM, financial management, marketing, IT, and a very beautiful way to study or make a research project is interdisciplinary, like marketing and finance, HR and marketing, HR and finance. Okay, so suppose you take industry like banking industry, and you take something in the banking industry like retention. So typical of, it's a topic of HR, no doubt at all, but you are giving some flavor of finance to it, like marketing and fintech. So it is technology, marketing, and finance, a combination of almost three domains. One will be dominated, of course, whatever the theory you come up with will dominate, but interdisciplinary research is also accepted in the UGPG projects. Okay, even in all projects in PhD and all, and mixed method research and interdisciplinary research is of very high value and respected. Then we have subdomain. Subdomain is this specialized super specialization area. Like I say that I am a faculty member of advertising, so this is my subdomain. So my discipline is management, domain is, and this is not fixed. Suppose there is an institution of retail management only. So if institution is of retail management, the discipline eventually would be retail management only. Okay, The discipline would be retail management. So the domain will be maybe say visual merchandising. Subdomain will be visual merchandising using props. Okay. So gradually, when we churn down this topic, it is not mandatory that we go in this way only. This may be different depending upon which department and which domain you are working in. Okay, so this is the way that we refine our area so that we can choose a topic itself. Okay, so the next important things comes is the research gap. Now this is very difficult because a lot of research is being done nowadays in these scholarly journals. Lot of research projects are coming. You have Shodh Ganga, you have Scopus database, you have Web of Science database. So it is very difficult to find where is the research gap. But more or less, if you are consulting, if you are being mentored, so your guide will help you out to find out the research gaps. And eventually, apparently, if you Google, I have a few tools which I'll let you know how to use them to find a research gap. So at least the topic should not be overworked. That's very important, specifically for the UG and PG students. Maybe for PhD, you can have a more rigorous process to find a research gap. I'll show you some of the research papers published in Scopus journals, that how do they write their research gaps and how to understand research gaps means whatever you claim as originality in your research later when you will write your project. How do we define it? We define it like it is a question or a problem that has not been answered by any of the existing studies or the research within your field. Okay, so it is very difficult to find because lot of literature is there and which is scattered. Like I've given you few examples like Shodh Ganga, like Web of Science, like Scopus, like individual journals which have not been indexed, but they have good number of studies, good quality of research. So two important tips for a research gap is that new relationships between two or more variables. And new relationships means like there are two variables in two different domains or a single domain which have not been connected so far. Like if you remember, I have shown you a PowerPoint slide in which I mentioned about cryptocurrency, then attribution bias and mutual funds. So this kind of combination you will find nowhere. Okay, so you can have some attribution bias for cryptocurrency itself. So this will be a new, like a relationship of two or more variables which are different in nature. Okay. Now, when next we come to antecedents of existing variables in a conceptual model or models. Say, if there is a model like technology acceptance behavior, which begins with perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness. Okay. Suppose two of the constructs let's take. Now, perceived ease of use may have some antecedents which you can add from your side. So you can modify a model, propose a modified model that will be your contribution to the research, but it has to be done with justification and with support of some relevant literature. Okay. Now, when we see the next one, how to go with this, like sources of information, we have Google Scholars, ResearchGate, academia.edu, Emerald Insights, Willie, Taylor and Francis, Sage Publications, IGI Global, Inder Science, Springer, elsewhere. These are all publishers. Publishers and aggregators like Google Scholar, ResearchGate and academia.edu, they are aggregators of the research. They have the research from Emerald, Willy, etc., and also have the research which is not listed on these platforms. But the most important constraint is finding the papers free of cost is little difficult. So you can go to your mentor, your libraries, you can have your friends, and there are certain websites on which most of the stuff till 2021 2022 can be found. So With these sources you can find. Now I will show you, there was an important thing about research gap, like how you present in study or how you find a research gap. That is what we can see from, like this is a paper from Emerald Journal Scopus. They have written originality or value. This is the research gap that they decided in the beginning, and this is the value they are giving. Most relevant studies about dimensions of service quality for ride source service. Ride source service is about the taxi services. Service quality of the taxi services do not have stable factor structure. Now, what is a stable factor structure? If you read this paper, then you will be more clear. But what do I understand, or we can understand, is number of factors of service quality dimensions are not stable. So, across various research papers that the researcher has studied, there are different factors. So this researcher has clubbed them, combined them together, and found that what are the so the dimensions identified include, I mean in this study, traditional taxi service quality and mobile app service quality, which are not covered in the current literature. So in the current literature means current research papers, theses, projects, these dimensions, direct and indirect, were not available. So these dimensions or factors have been identified in this study. This is the novelty of research. Okay, so if you go through quickly, this is a very good scholarly work. See, these are the studies already, these have been done. Now you see cleanliness, ride smoothness, these are the dimensions which was scattered, and these are the dimensions which have been found by the researcher in this paper. Okay, so these have been empirically tested with the help of data and statistical techniques. All right, now I see one more paper, and how the originality has been defined in this paper. You see, the relevance and uniqueness of the study lay in the fact that it is the first study to examine. Now this is a very, very blunt, very strong statement. Sometimes it is written that to the best of the researcher's knowledge, to the best of the researcher's exploration to the literature, no study was found. But okay, it's fine, it has been published or whatever, so we should not question much. Switching intention of diabetic patients towards self-monitoring glucose devices using technology acceptance model. Okay, so now the product is self-monitoring glucose device. Technology acceptance model is how people accept technology because of perceived ease of use or perceived usefulness, and whatever other variables. Now using TAM, they have done it for the first time. So what is new in this study? TAM is not new. Self-monitoring glucose device is a product, that is a context, that is not a variable. Switching intention of diabetic patients. So switching intention of diabetic patients is a major variable, which is a dependent variable, and TAM itself has the variables, its own variables, adoption of the technology. Okay, so this has been used. Now if you see the model, all the variables will also be clear. So let us go to the conceptual model. Figure 1, I suppose, should be there. Now this is the model. Okay, so perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use, these are the two independent variables. This is fine that this is also affecting this. Switching intention is the dependent variable. Okay, so switching intention, I told you, is a variable which is a dependent variable. Of course, it is affected by usefulness and ease of use, and switching cost is moderating this relationship, right? So this is a very good example of how do you build your research model in your projects, and how do you write the, this. So this thing you'll get from, like I have shared a slide, like the sources of information. Now these sources of information are very important. So sources of information are basically very important. Now we will take a tour of the sources of information so that it is easy for the students to uh, understand. Now this is Google Scholars. Suppose I want to work in the switching behavior for mobile phones itself. Switching behavior for mobile phones. I am putting like behavior for mobile phones. All right. Now you see that factors affecting consumer switching behavior, mobile phone market in Manchester, United Kingdom. Okay, if you change the country, I will tell you about the research gaps, 7 types of research gaps in brief. Now you may change the country, you may change the factors, right? So this is the way that these are all PDF available on Google Scholar. You can just go through their models, their factors, and define your find out. Say you find out 5 6 variables. So choose new combination of 3 4 variables, and your job is done. So it is simple, right? Then we have like academia.edu or ResearchGate. How to find ResearchGate? Now type ResearchGate and then type switching behavior for mobile phones. So you find the papers like this: ResearchGate, brand switching behavior of mobile phones, brand switching attitude. Now attitude is a variable, perception is a variable. So you have a lot of scope if you actually work. This I'm telling in the marketing context. You may have finance context. You may have, many other context as well. Now we see the last one, that is academia.edu. You can search. Now we can have Emerald ones, Emerald Insights. Okay, Emerald Insights. And suppose we are looking for switching behavior as a topic. Switching behavior. So in the switching behavior, we find that switching behavior, we can do double quote also. Okay, so we'll find more relevant papers now. Customer switch. Why do bank customers switch? Okay, bank service failure and bank customer switching behavior of mobile service users, case of Jordan. Now suppose we don't have access to this paper, at least we can have the abstract, and from the abstract itself we can have uh, the uh, the factors. So we know that what kind of research is going on and what I can contribute new into the research if I conduct. Okay, and then we have Scopus paid database. So it is difficult to obtain this. You have to have some organizational subscription either, or you should have some relations with the faculty members who have the subscription of these databases. Now before I wind up, I have a slide that explains 7 types of research gaps. Okay, so I'll not explain it in detail. I have given it to you, and will share the picture of it. So we have evidence gap, knowledge gap, practical knowledge gap, methodological gap, empirical gap, theoretical gap, and population gap. So these many gaps, any of the gap you can address, any one or two or three gaps you can address from this. Now the last is this is what we have done now. Okay, so this is all about how to choose a title. If you have any questions, I have given my email id and my phone number. You can WhatsApp me. Please do not call. First WhatsApp. Call me only if it is urgent or it is very very important.